So we're going to be talking about fortune in the follow-up. This is a term we use a lot here at Advisorist. So just let's start off with some stats here, okay? And most of you know these things, but they're always worth repeating for a lot of reasons. All right, so marketers need an average of 7 contacts, which would be touches, impressions, interactions, whatever it may be, to turn a prospect into an actual buyer. All right, and all of us know anyone with that list or any leads, dial 3 times, move on, right? Leave a couple messages and we're moving on. Then we're never hitting those marks, right? And I think we've talked about automation, we've talked about all those things, but Brieanna, maybe you could just talk about how automation helps there. I mean, what we see with our clients, the ability to automate a lot of those touches before getting what I call the red zone, is that 7 to 12 where people are making those decisions, that we're having actual live conversations and putting our time in there.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing, right, is time. And that's why a lot of the follow-up doesn't happen, is because you think, oh, I've gotten 3 in and 3 calls, nobody answered, but I just don't have the time to keep going after this one lead. So using automation or using, programs, technology to help you will be doing it for you while you sleep, right? Passively. So that's what you really want to get into, is processes that allow you to work on your business while these things are working for you.
And I think the next 2 stats really help set this up too. So you have 57% of people are already in their journey of purchase, right? When they're talking to you. All right. And 80% of people are buying from the last person they spoke to. So let's dissect that a little bit. So if you're dialing 3 times, moving on, that's 3 touches, right? They're in market. What happens next? Another advisor comes along. So this is, again, where we see follow-up is such an important thing. That person that's touching them between that 7 to 12, that red zone, they're the ones getting the sale. You guys are just heating up prospects. If you're doing that, you're just heating up prospects for other advisors out there following the methods we're going to talk about today. And we see that, right, Brian? We see that every day. We hear some crazy stories about follow-up and opportunities that our advisors are getting.
Yeah, and I'll hear a lot of times, like, I messaged them back, but they didn't get on my calendar, as if like their prospect is in the wrong for somehow not getting on the calendar. And it's really taking that onus to say, what can I do to keep engaging this person until they're ready?
And we're going to talk about some stats around that as well. So yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's dissect this here. So we talked a little about email last week. We want to dive deeper into that. So what you all see in front of you right now is what an average campaign of 7 touches, email campaign of 7 touches looks like when you're marketing to a prospect. All right, so just right off the bat, we look at touch 4, right? Starts at 18, kind of drops down a little bit. Touch 4, you're still getting a 13% response rate. I mean, that's that here, we're going into it, right? 13%. I mean, you see right away, you go to step 6, 27%. How many of us are stopping before step 6, right? I would think the majority of us. I know I was guilty of that. And even doing this research, I know these things. We've talked about these before. I mean, this is a slide we used probably almost a year ago now, initially, and we dug back out. And I'm like, man, I forget these things. There's so much coming at us. We forget these little things that can be a huge difference in our practice. Now, here's the part that is the opportunity. 98% of advisors stop right there. They're not following up. They're not putting automation into place. They're not using technology. They're not on these power hours listening to all the tips and tricks and tools that we're giving you each week to implement and use to even increase your numbers well beyond these that you're seeing in front of you. So huge opportunity out there. And we see this, Brian, you mentioned, we see a lot of responses. We have a campaign that goes out. It's based on different days, right? So it might go 1 day, then 3 days, and 7 and 10. But most of our touches we see in that 5 to 7 range is where we see the most responses coming in.
Yeah. So our campaigns are built off of at least 5 to 6 touches, including like view profile and engagement. And then from there, the biggest thing that I think is important to remember is once the client or prospect actually engages with you, kind of like a whole new set of follow-up now applies, right? It's not that it's like, oh, I reached out 5 times, or they saw 5 of my ads and then they finally said, I'll meet with you. That sequence now starts over to say, okay, now continue following up with them again at 4. You're not at 8 because they said they'll talk to you. You have to get them on your calendar and things like that.
Absolutely. All right, cool. So Brieanna, why don't you share some more stats for everybody here?
Yeah, so some of these stats are my favorite because I find myself in these shoes, especially in the beginning of my career working with financial advisors. So I've been doing this for about 3 years. And when I first came in, there was a lot of financial jargon, and Chris can attest to this, that I was like, what does that mean again? Or what is that? Because he was using them so fluidly. And so the first stat we have here is that people who talk to their prospects in a third degree reading level, and not like condescending or things like that, but just kind of putting it in the basics, are more likely to get replies. So a lot of times I see, our advisors saying things like, we can help you with your making sure you have your insurance correct. And it's like, you should probably say things like protection, right? Or instead of using the word like retirement planning, you can say things like, are you prepared for life after your career? And so you start to put things in a way that makes sense to the audience that you're talking to. So statistically, it's even proven to get more of a response. The number 3 and 4, we've kind of already covered about the multiple touches, but number 2 is my favorite because I just love kind of automation and the new tech world that we live in. And following up within 5 minutes of a response is 9 times more likely to convert. And kind of a little tough love here, right? In the world that we live in, especially with our phones constantly on our hip, there really is no reason that you cannot be consistently following up with your audience within 5 minutes. Whether that means on LinkedIn, you set your settings to receive phone notifications, or you have your emails come through on your home screen, whatever that might be, to make sure that you are always in the know. And if you can't, you can hire a VA that can be their sole purpose. So I think it's really important to see these kind of numbers to know, is your practice set up to be receiving things like 9 times more conversions, or 36 more likely to get a reply, things like that.
So just quick, like simplification, right? And that's what we mean. Just simplify. I'm an advisor, was an advisor. We're all guilty of this, and with good reason, right? We spend a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of hours just developing our skills, our knowledge, the strategies that we use and implement with employees. So, there's a lot there that we have strategies, the how of what we do, and we tend to get really deep in the how, and the clients, prospects don't care about the how. That's the last thing from their mind. They want to know what can you do for them? How can you do it? And as simplified as possible so they understand it in very plain and simple terms. So yeah. All right, keep going there, Brieanna.
Yeah, so number 3 is just about the same thing we talked about, 5 to 12 touches. I would say across the board in marketing, I've heard people say all kinds of things like 7 or 9. I've never heard someone say less than 5. So regardless, if you're not set up to succeed at least 5 times in a touch, you're kind of already off the path. So we kind of already mentioned that. And then the last one here is about the sales calls that you make. So, my boyfriend is in sales as well, so he can attest this because we've talked this, and I've heard kind of in other industries as well. This is extremely true about following up and having those calls and not just giving up after the first call. There's all kinds of ways as well to do like automated voicemails, to leave it that way. Whatever you can do to save time and simplify is statistically going to increase your business. So you want to just kind of set it up the first time and then kind of let it do its thing, or get a team that can help you with these as well.
Great. So let's look at some practical application here, right? So here's kind of a map of the follow-up process, right? So if you've touched somebody already, you've had that conversation, whether it's a initial 15-minute chat, met them at an event, was introduced to them. The first touch is always a thank you and add value. Okay, we've got some members of our program doing tremendous things here. Rob, he does a personalized video, Loom video. So we've talked about Loom before, LOOM, where you're able to do a screen share, whether you pull up their LinkedIn profile, a document you reviewed, a document that would apply to them, whatever it may be, and just record a personalized video to them, just thanking them, adding value to that conversation you had. All right, touch 2 would be follow up, offer that, maybe another coffee chat, checking in with them on just how things are going. 3, if they don't, these are all obviously if they don't reply. So automation's very important here, or an assistant that's watching, a VA that's watching over these things. Then you're just going to check in with them. Oh, hey, you get that message? Did it go to spam, whatever, however you want to check in with them, just kind of follow up. And the 4th is that little nudge. Hey, just nudging this back up. I know you're busy. Acknowledging they're busy. A lot of people, when you find you give them an excuse, number 1, because they do get busy, they forget things. But number 2, maybe play to their ego a little bit. Hey, you're a busy person, just trying to stay in touch with you. Those are great ways to get responses back. Then you can add value again, whether, hey, based on the initial conversation, hey, I saw this video this morning, thought you'd love it. Check it out and give me your feedback. And then 6, maybe at this point, all right, you've kind of exhausted it. You've tried to follow up. you're maybe moving them to a monthly or quarterly newsletter or something that you have. So maybe it's an invitation to that, or YouTube videos that you've been publishing or posting, some invitation to something you're doing. So this is something we teach. It's a great follow-up process that you guys can take and implement right into your practices right now. Anything to add?
Yeah, I wanted to just touch on really quick, touch point 3 and touch 4. So I think that this is really important about the check-in or just nudge. I think a lot of times there's a misconception that you have to, write these super long emails every single time and kind of, hit your prospects with a bunch of information. But I found, it's more natural and real to just say, hey, just seeing if you saw my last email, right? Because they already have that thread or they already have that message in their system somewhere. So usually most of the time they're attached. So saying just things like, hey, just checking in, is sometimes a lot less aggressive than just kind of sending what you're selling or talking about or what you want to help them with. So in your guys' flows, as you can build them out, think about adding those. I get those from other people in my email that are trying to sell me stuff for marketing. So I think it works well because it seems natural and it's like they're just checking in to see if they got it. I won't respond to it, right? Because I don't want to do that, but I see them in my inbox numerous times, which makes me be like, wow, this person's really persistent, which I like and I can respect.
Yeah. So Brandon, could you just talk about, because this is something we've seen an evolution of just communication, I would say over the last couple of years. We've seen it on LinkedIn a lot, email as well. The tone and the length of communication from, maybe when we first started our program to now, and what we're seeing there as well.
Yeah, so short and sweet. This is something that we preach all the time, right? The world is moving to a place where our attention spans are just getting shorter and shorter, that's just kind of the reality of things. And so there is a way to talk to your prospect that can get your point across without having to write this big block of like information to people, because automatically the eye is viewing that entire paragraph as just a big like thing it doesn't want to engage with. This is why we talk a lot in Shift about like adding emojis or adding things like this that can make the eye want to read, like numbers, stuff like that. And so that's why it's really important for copywriting. So I know Sky's going to be doing that in Max. That's really, really important to learn how to do those techniques. And once you can figure them out, they're really powerful. But people on LinkedIn and even in emails, if they just even see a long email, right, that's not kind of spaced out or things like that, they just won't even interact with it.
Great. Thanks, Brieanna. Ralph, I'm going to answer your question. It's a great question. I'm going to go to the next slide here. Just Brieanna already shared this, but I want to sit here for a moment. So what we just shared with you is kind of follow-up process, right? 80% of sales require 5 follow-up calls after the meeting. All right. So the first meeting, you have to follow up. 44% of reps give up after that first follow-up. Okay. So again, it's all about timing for your prospects. So Ralph asked a question here. So let's dig a little deeper on this. What are your suggestions for touches 7 to 12? So that was a follow-up process. You've already probably exceeded that touch process in the initial, just from there being a prospect to getting them on that first call. You're already well past that or into those numbers at that point. So they're aware of you at that time. So it's about 2 things from there. Number 1, making sure they continue to be aware of you without annoying them, right? Walking that fine line, politely persistent, right? We've heard that. That's the kind of the fine line you're walking. The second is being there when they need you, okay? There's a reason why 80% of people buy from the last person they spoke to. It's because when they need it, and we've all had these experiences, all right? Put in the chat, if you've had the experience of following up with a customer for 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years. I have a story from 2 years that it took me. And then all of a sudden one day they're like, hey, Chris, I got something happening. I got a loan closing. I got my wife's coming, whatever it is. I need to do this right away, right? All of a sudden they need it done right away, even though you've been following up for months and now you got to get it done. We've all had that experience. And there's a reason. Something in their timing makes it so that it's urgent for them and you need to be the first person they think of. That's what we're doing here. That's the goal of all of this, okay? And Jeremiah, maybe we could bring you in here. We've talked a lot about this. I know you've got experience in this. You've seen this. Can you share some thoughts here? Because I think this is a really important point that, again, would be a huge difference in your practice. And we have the other advisors will be the ones warming up your prospects and the ones that you're closing instead of the other way around, implementing these things.
Yeah, and we got a lot of good Q&A coming in, so we'll probably handle that, folks, just coming up. Bummer for one guy was asking Brieanna if you were single. So you kind of let the cat out of the bag that you got a boyfriend. And by the way, he's also a comedian. So tough competition because girls like funny guys.
Make us laugh. Yeah.
So you got to keep her, B. Sorry. Hopefully what we're teaching you today will make up for the sorrow that is in your heart, sir. That being said, so in terms of keeping things short and sweet, something that will help to convert any argument you're trying to make is one simple word. And it's the word because. And they ran a psychological experiment on this where they had people line up. I wrote about this in my book, Shift. They had people line up in front of a photocopier and they had somebody jump in and say, can I just get ahead of you to make a photocopy? And a certain percentage of people said, sure. And then they had the same person go back to a different line of people and said, could I just get ahead of you because I need to make this copy real quick? And the number of people who said yes increased by 100%. So what's the takeaway there? In your follow-ups, if you're trying to get a call or another meeting or a review, add the word because. Because legitimizes your answer. The human brain hears because and it says legitimate, right? Like it happens in less than a nanosecond. It's like because equals legitimate equals I should do it, right? There's a whole study in neuroscience on language patterns you can research online if you wish, but that's basically what it does. So in an email follow-up, look for something to give a reason for, like because crypto just took a dive and I want to share something with you, because people are talking about a bear market and I have an idea for you, because I just released my last video and it speaks to something that you mentioned, because I just met a client and it gave me an idea for you, because what? Because it's Wednesday, right? Like you guys, when we talk about putting pictures, and we're going to talk about GIFs and emojis, and a really cool GIF that our system does for you. You could put a picture of a puppy and hey, here's a picture of a puppy here because it's Wednesday. That's it. That's the only reason. That's the only reason. So we don't have to overthink it. You can keep it short and sweet.
Great. Well, thanks for that segue here. Brieanna, you want to talk a little bit about GIFs? So we got NIEs making an appearance again. We got a couple here. So maybe you just talk about these real quick and I'll show you. We got a couple all of our team went and did these. So I'll just speak to this. It's not a process I enjoy. As Jeremiah mentioned, I like to be behind the scenes. So it's hard, but just that personalization, we're going to talk about that too. So Brieanna, what do we see here?
Yeah, so the world knows, I think, that automation exists, and I think there's some kind of grace in that space. But when you can really get to a place where you're custom in what you're doing, I think again people respect and appreciate that. And so there is all kinds of simple and free ways as well to do these kinds of things. So a lot of this was made on Canva or another program as well. We'll have a tip video coming up in about 2 weeks on how to do these. But that's one of our team members, and in his messaging to his prospects, he's going to have that message right there, talking about let's have a virtual coffee chat. And if it feels uncomfortable or weird, the reality is that it's getting results. So if you're you want to step into that space and get comfortable. I think there's a couple other ones, just like still.
So like Brieanna, we should tell them though, like where does that GIF show up? Like we call that a GIF, guys, GIF. In case you didn't know, it's an animated GIF. That's what it's called, not a gift. But go back 1 second. So Brieanna, where would we put that GIF, like so that people know, hey, where does this go? I'll do this thing and that's fine. Coffee meeting, where does that go?
Yeah, so you can put this into your LinkedIn messaging. That's where we're seeing a lot of it. But you can also do this in your email as well, just inserting it. Once it's put into GIF format, you can pretty much send it just like a mini video. And just a quick tip on like, how do I even make one of those? Just take your phone, record a video of you, maybe 2 to 3 seconds long, of you going back and forth. And then that's a small little video that you can now use again in emails or on LinkedIn to introduce yourself to people kind of like in a virtual world.
Yeah. And by the way, you can use a GIF in a Facebook Messenger conversation, in email, on your website, anywhere. Our system, people who are our private clients, this whole thing is automated, by the way. So like you're sending out, hey, you want to meet for coffee? Has the person's name there. You want to meet for coffee, Brieanna? You're like this. That happens automatically hundreds of times a day without you doing anything. So Our system is one of the only ones on the planet that can do that. And we only work with insurance and financial advisors. So if you guys are interested in that, go to meetwithadvisors.com, hop on a 15-minute call. We can, we can share answer your questions, but we're not here to sell it. We don't sell that software. It's only for clients. So, but just because I'm seeing a lot of questions come in, where does that thing, how do you get that done? So.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with this too as well is that, have you guys seen this? Like, this is so unique to us and what our system can do that even if this is uncomfortable or weird, this is brand new stuff that's being out, and like you can be a part of doing that, because I guarantee your prospects are not seeing this from other competitors. So you are automatically standing out in their mind for just having this, a 3-second video.
Well, and that's the thing, we see these next steps, right? We've been talking about automation for a little while. Now it's okay, let's automate, but now it's personalized, and that's a whole nother world, right? And then we've talked about omni-channel and putting these things together. All of these pieces are it's the next level, right? And that's what we try to do every week, is get you that next level. So, Brian, why don't you talk about these real quick as well? Because I think these are all. What do these do?
Yeah, so these are kind of on that same level. Again, if you feel uncomfortable in video, you can also do just still pictures that have customization in them. So this is really awesome within our software, because our software will actually fill in the blank of your picture. So you can see where it says like first name. Our software will actually put in the first name of your prospect on LinkedIn. But again, if you were doing this manually yourself, this is another tactic that you can use. That image would be a picture of you kind of looking to the side and saying, hey, John Smith, how are you solving your 401k, benefits at your company, or something along those lines. The next one is actually my favorite too. This is a really great way to e-meet people, right? Is to have a little whiteboard up. And again, our system can automatically put that picture and that name into these images. But it looks real. That's a guy holding up a white, board, and you talk about, it's nice to meet you. So they're seeing that that's you, like, oh, you're a real person. You really did actually create this. So just another way to, again, use images to really engage with your audience on multiple sites.
And this is, again, another area of differentiation and technology, right? All you do is and this is scale, right? We do this at scale. Picture of yourself holding a white paper, right? Even a little whiteboard, and our system will actually take the picture of the person you're chatting with, including their name, from their LinkedIn profile and superimpose it at scale. These are all things, again, that personalization, but still using technology. So let's look at the stats. Why do this, right? All right, so the average order value of an email is 3 times higher than social media. So number one, right away, we're going into email, we're going direct market, we're going direct to the people, personalizing that. It's not just some ad that they're seeing out there in space. We're doing a direct message on LinkedIn, a direct email with gifts, personalization. 75% of consumers are purchasing off of these personalized preferences, right? The things that they're looking for. Imagine the next level of this, having a list only of people that asked for life insurance, right? And they're your life insurance leads. Hey, thinking of buying life insurance still? Give me a call with their picture and your picture, and let's meet. Let's have a virtual coffee chat. That preference, their personalized preferences they have, and the ability to create personalized offers, 75% are more likely to purchase. Huge numbers that we're seeing. All right, gifts and emails is a 6% increase in open rates and 109% increase in revenue. Again, that personalization, taking that time, these are things, again, people don't know you can actually do these things from a technological standpoint, right? Many people don't know just automation that's out there as it stands. So these are all little tips here that personalization is going to lead to huge dividends in the end. Anything to add here, Jeremiah or Brianna?
I was just going to say, when it comes to like the personalization, the biggest thing for me, because we talk about this a lot in the chat, is that sometimes people will just send their newsletter and they won't have prospects reach out to 5 or 6 months later. But if you can do something that's unique and fresh and stands out to them, when that 5 to 6 month later, period comes, they're going to be thinking of you. So you really want to position yourself as an authority, personalize it, and then again, do things that stand out in people's minds. That's how they're going to remember you later.
All right. Yeah. And I want to share something with you. I've been saying this for a long time. Become Google, become the Facebook of your market. Okay. This to me, advisors, this is the business you need to be in, collecting as much information as you can on your prospects. There are things coming down the pipe in marketing that we've got our eyes on. Predictive marketing. I've shared this before. It wasn't too long ago. Target got in trouble because they were, by what a woman would purchase, they'd be able to, you know, put some data points together and come to a reasonable assumption that she was probably pregnant. And they got so good at doing that, they started predicting before the woman even knew. Okay, these are the things that are out there. And as we know, everything when at scale, you can start getting cheaper and cheaper technology and things like that. These are all things that are out there that are coming. If you are loaded with information, emails, phone numbers, names of hundreds and thousands of clients or prospects that have raised their hand at some point or been in market at some point, that's the business. Google is an information-based company. They sell that all over the place. We've all had conversations and ads are showing up on our phone. We've all had these things happen, right? That's what's happening. Become the Google, become the Facebook of your market. All right. I promise you will not regret that. Promise. Okay. All right. Running short on time here. So let's talk about how you can do this. There's a number of ways to start collecting that information if you're not doing these things. You have a website. You create a little pop-up that's going to, you know, have them subscribe to a newsletter, capture that information off the bat. There are CRMs that will start capturing IP addresses for future marketing. There's all sorts of ways to do this. Ad campaigns in Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Google, all of them that have these campaigns that you can collect that information. Our LinkedIn program, I'm going to show you an example of that in a moment. The information you can get just off of LinkedIn. We shared a little bit about this last week. I want to show you an example of that. You can buy a list. You can buy leads, or I like buying aged leads because there are people you knew were in market. You can get them at pennies on the dollar and just use these strategies we're talking about to follow up with them and create very inexpensive automations to reheat those leads. So these are all ways that you can start implementing right away to start getting, start building that database and getting opportunities and putting these follow-up systems into place. All right, so let's look at an example. We shared this last week, and I want to focus on one thing right here. So you see, we start with a LinkedIn search, all right, and we move down here to email verification. We have a step in our system where we verify their email address on their LinkedIn account. If they have a verified email, there goes some other steps, but I just want to focus right here because if they have a verified email, that means that before we ever connect with them, just because they're in one of our searches on LinkedIn, we now have their email address. And we are seeing on average, across our accounts, 40 to 60% of everybody on LinkedIn, we can get their email without being connected to them. That's huge. Okay, and we can get their first name, last name, all that information that's on LinkedIn. And let's show you an example real quick. So our clients, and it's a little blurry here, sorry, but first name, last name, their profile, their LinkedIn profile, we can use this to do future targeted marketing towards them. Occupation, the company they work with, their email, their phone numbers on top of their emails, the county or country they're in that they work out of, their websites. It's all information that we're pulling without ever connecting with anybody. All right. So again, there are plenty of resources out there. This to me is gold, and I tell everybody in our program, this is the thing that pays dividends 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 5 years down the road. Because we don't know what's coming, and the more information we have, the more equipped the tools we're going to have to execute and have great success with it. So Brieanna, any last words on this and kind of what we're seeing from our members?
Yeah, I mean, the chart that Chris just showed you guys is what we call smart sequencing. It's kind of you'll see that a lot of like new systems, not even just in automation, but in general, are kind of looking at this smart sequencing. It's kind of the new age of telling a robot to think, essentially, as opposed to the past where a robot was kind of just doing things linear in a one-way track. Now we're telling it to do multiple actions. So if this, then this, and if not this, then that. And so the system's working in that way for you. So automation is now moving into a place where it can think in multiple facets as opposed to just one. So we're even moving forward in automation and things like that too. So that's what you guys are seeing with that smart sequence.
Yeah. Yep.
This is some killer stuff, guys. Are you cool with handling some extra cues we got coming in?
Yeah,
to the Q&A?
Yeah.
All right. So Jennifer, is this a report from Sales Navigator?
So no, it is not. So in November of 2018, LinkedIn stopped allowing, you have to opt in. So they do allow you to download some of this information, but you have to opt in. 99% of people don't opt into sharing this information anymore. So we had to redo our whole system to be able to go in and scrape this information, pull it in, and create this. So this is something just from our system at this point.
Yeah. And Robert was asking, is this done manually or automatic?
So answer is, so our system's doing this automatically. How you're using and getting that information to wherever you want to get it, whether you have an email, a CRM system, something like that you're utilizing, we have the ability through Zapier or other integrations to do webhooks that we can connect to those to your system, so that can automatically push right into a campaign. Or you can manually download the CSV and upload it wherever you would like. So both are available.
We got one of our rockstar clients, Nate. Is that flowchart available in the LinkedIn Accelerator module in Advisors for members?
It is under the resources area. You'll see it under there.
You know, we got you, Nate. If you're a Shift member, this is all included. Everything you just saw here that we are teaching, this is all what we help you do with Shift Accelerator. So absolutely, Nate, you know we got your back. All right. Mark, let's see. I'm not ready for the LinkedIn program because I haven't completed VH. I need help. I want to plug in somehow, just not sure how or which program fits best. If that's your situation, you know, some people are going through both programs at a time because the virtual advisor appointment engine is for the long game of YouTube rankings. And then the Shift Accelerator is the short game of instant, you know, appointment generation, database building now. And we have people that are doing both at the same time. So best thing for you, Mark, is to set up a quick call with one of our coaches at meetwithadvisors.com. Meetwithadvisors.com. Just book a call, have a convo, and then they'll help, help you see which is the best fit for you. So good question here. Jim, I use Redtail as my CRM. Can I export a large list into your software and use that for the automation?
The answer is yes. Now with the email synchronization that we have, you can do that. If you have their LinkedIn profile, we can target them directly on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn profile is important, but you know, Jim, we can talk. We've got ways to help you on that too. So no problem there.
Yeah. Maria, what is the window of time before you follow up? Is it every week? Is it every other week or?
So we use a very similar process to how we initially do outreach. So day 1, day 3, 7, 14, 21, 32, 64, and you go further and further from there until you move into, you know, a monthly or quarterly newsletter, however you're doing. I would suggest monthly at a minimum. So that's how we would suggest. You don't want to just keep badgering them. You want to space out, again, that politely persistent. That's the important thing there.
Yeah. Chris, which CRM are you using for group benefits? Because I know you're a Group Benny's rock star.
Yeah. There's a lot of them out there. Agency Block's a really great one. A lot of good ones that sink in, and so that's a good one. Agency Block's got a lot of stuff on there.
Yep. Nate's saying you guys are awesome, so thank you very much for that. Handled that one. Let's take one more. Let's see. Lynn's asking, what's the name of the program being discussed now? Shift LinkedIn Accelerator. Shift LinkedIn Accelerator. This is our 90-day program where we take you from having no predictability in your calendar to 2 to 3 consistent clients a month or 5 to 7 appointments a week, and set that up all within 90 days or less, taking you through our 4 pillars. If you're interested in that, folks, we put a link in the chat. It's meetwithadvisors.com. Just hop on there. You can grab a spot on our calendar today, have a conversation. We'll see if there's a fit there, if there's a there. Lucinda, thank you for always sharing valuable information. That is the only kind of information we share, Lucinda. So very grateful for you for noticing that. Glad we got that taken care of. And let's do one more question here. Michael, just signed up for Max, looking for my Mindset Assist Monday. Awesome. And by the way, a ton of you just came in on Max. So kudos to all you guys that took advantage of Max. That's amazing. Remember, the price will go up to $500 a month, and then it will still be a deal. I know coaching programs that are like $60K a year that have 3 people in them, and they show up once every 2 weeks. Wow. Like, are you kidding me? So we are out to set a whole new standard of coaching, guys. We are building the #1 insurance and financial training program in the industry, and we're so grateful you guys are a part of that. Final words of encouragement. We'll go to Brieanna and then to you, Chris. Final words for Shift Nation before we say peace out and we head to next Wednesday.
Yeah, so I would say the biggest thing is being uncomfortable. I know a lot of this stuff is kind of new, and taking videos and images of yourself or using automation for the first time is really scary, but growth happens when you are uncomfortable. So if you're ready to move and grow you and your company, then you got to do those things that are uncomfortable. And coming from someone who doesn't like to get on video or do uncomfortable things, I've found that the time that I just do it and just jump in, I have grown immensely. So do what scares you.